Welcome back to the Overwatch World Cup. We have the preliminaries, and now Colombia moves up to face Sweden in the semifinal of Bracket C.
Sweden, of course, getting to this point with a bye, so we haven't seen what they're bringing out here in a very different roster than we've seen from past World Cups out of Sweden. Although Sweden, I think, has just always been such a dominant team. Overwatch popular in the country, a lot of strong players coming out of Sweden, so I would expect them to be dominant here. But then again, we haven't seen anything, so it's too early to jump to conclusions, especially as we get into this control map on Lijiang Tower. That's anybody's map, and especially Dromer on the Mei, man, he's been so good. The Mei can be really effective on a lot of the maps of Lijiang.
Yeah, I wonder if Sweden have been watching what's been going on. And also that Reinforce isn't floating over our shoulder quite yet. But Sweden, I think one of the most stacked teams in this bracket. This is the quote final boss or the juggernaut. These are players from, Lulsish and Elibo just recently got picked up for the Washington Justice, Angry Titans, Envy, top players on this team. That's the TLDR. Let's get into this match though. And we're seeing the double shield from Sweden, but Cersei again with the D.Va.
Colombia sticking to a work with them for the last match, but Sweden now bringing out the double shield and starting immediately with the Doomfist. It's very tough to stuff a Doomfist without that Coalescence Rock, but Erky immediately shut down the Maywell by Dromer, cancels his escape.
Dromer, such a good wall that isolated the front line of Sweden. They're still fighting through this. Lulsish is low and separated from the rest of the team. Sweden trying to see if they can equalize that pick, but might not happen. Colombia getting the first capture here is big to be able to play defense on a map like this.
Sweden maybe a little bit surprised as we were to see this Mei D.Va coming out, but again, it works for Colombia off the back of a huge Mei wall. Erky, if he had escaped there, who knows what he could have done, reinitiating into the backline, but it definitely is on Erky here. He needs to make this Doomfist work, needs to get opening picks. That's what Colombia is most vulnerable to, given that they've given up that Sigma. Here we go, getting a huge Coalescence, and that's what he needs.
So big, and the collapse even with the Coalescence assisting Erky. They make their way to the point. Colombia, it's a dead fight. They can throw more bodies out. Looks like Helpful's gonna try and get out, get to the health pack, and Erky won't let him.
No escape there. The Doomfist catching them off. This is what you need to see from Sweden. Decisive initiations with that Doomfist, ending the fight quickly or getting a pick off. That's what Colombia should struggle to deal with, especially given how much of Doomfist damage is just unblockable by D.Va. You've got all those cooldown abilities ready to deal damage, but Colombia, they want to bait Sweden in here, but they're going to start with the Coalescence and try and get some space.
Good Maywall from Dromer, so close to the Blizzard. Isolation there, but Colombia not getting any picks. It's Erky, who's just dominating them on this Doomfist. He's sneaking away, can even get the finish on the Box 6, but he's able to dodge it. Meanwhile, Sweden still holding on to this fight.
The Moira Orb totally saving Bach there, keeping him alive, but Sweden still keeping point control, and they haven't invested any ults beyond that Gravitic Flux, so only a minor commitment here. At this point though, Colombia, they will have an opportunity to get aggressive, although Sweden wants to continue these staggers into the spawn, wanting to pressure with that second tank being taken out. The question is, how can Colombia make the space here with their ults? They've got the Blizzard, that should zone off Rat on the Reaper. They've got as well the self-destruct, but it's challenging to use that self-destruct and survive. The Doomfist can pick off that Pilot D.Va so easily.
Especially when you have two shields. Elibo will be hit the one to watch. There's Erky joining the rest of the team. Barriers exchange from both sides. Hell is breaking loose in the middle of the map, and Colombia need the flip so desperately. It's 67+% for Sweden. And they're having such a dominant first showing here in the preliminaries.
And after that first mid with Dromer hitting the surprise Maywell and Erky, it feels like he's been in control of the game ever since there. I mean, Erky just always initiating from the high ground, and this is where it's really punishing to play that D.Va. Without the Sigma to push out those flankers, you're essentially conceding the high ground to Doomfist, and that's not something you ever want to do. Cersei switching over to the Rhine now, hoping to buy them a little bit of time to make it to the point.
Oh, Colombia just using Coalescence, getting enough healing to just survive through this. Malphador goes for a big play with the Death Blast and needs healing. Immediately punished there from Rat. Sweden, 97 plus
Helpful.
overtime. Colombia's there.
He has to fade the point. He's going to die for his troubles, and Dromer following as well after him. Sweden getting to clean up the stronger brawling composition with that double shield ends up working out. There's a little glimmer of hope there for Colombia winning the mid fight, but on this map, I mean, Sweden can just recontest from the high ground. There's no way that your Mei can actually suppress that sort of flanking initiation. We see Sweden not making the same mistakes of the Philippines. They're splitting up. They're not letting that Mei wall block one choke and block most of their team, and because they split up, there's no way for the Mei to truly isolate anybody, and without that, I mean, Colombia, that's really been what they've been relying on this whole time against the Philippines. That's really what got them the win, so I'm not surprised to see a switch come out, though. It does feel like Sweden has their number strategically here. We'll see as well if this TP from Rat ends up actually making a big difference in terms of each team's positions when they meet on point.
Yeah, they can maybe get to the point a little bit quicker, set up their shields, have Erky go off again. As soon as they were able to play on a defensive stance, it felt like Erky was always in their back line. Columbia, with an interesting tank setup against Cersei, likes to go non-meta stuff, and then you have that boop kill at the start. Huge for Columbia.
Huge conk on the bridge. They weren't ready for that. Weren't ready to block the conk. Weren't expecting Belfegor to bring out the Pharah, and it'll cost them. This could be a mid-fight, although that pick was so early, actually. It's possible that Sweden will be able to get another fight here. We'll be able to make it to point prior to Columbia getting the full cap, and Columbia on a very weird composition here. Running the Widow, running the Winston, not what we normally see here. The question is, can they survive the aggression of the Doomfist?
The point still hasn't been captured yet, so this fight can take forever. Sweden working so well together, though, that synergy that they bring from all these different teams. I mean, Lulsish and Eligod have been teaming forever, and it's really showing in that front line. Columbia redeciding their composition again, back to the Reinhardt.
Yeah, they just need something to deal with Erky. I feel like with this Widow, she's just a huge vulnerability, a glaring vulnerability, and it's really all on Helpful to just solo heal his entire team, and that's really rough to do. Once he loses his fade, I mean, he just can't commit into these aggressive locations the way that a Lucio Moira can do when they're working in concert.
Now you got a barrage available from Belfegor, and he's trying to sneak up on Sweden. And Columbia, you can see they're coming from the front, so they're going to take that attention away, and Belfegor needs to be aggressive with this. Spots out, looking for the supports. Lining it up, there's a barrage, 3! Even the Maywall to assist to make sure they're trapped into that ultimate. Clean plays from Columbia, and they'll retake.
Great play by Belfegor there. Great patience with the barrage, getting all the way around behind. Sweden losing track of him in the chaos, especially in this LAN environment. Those audio settings aren't you used to. It can be a little bit loud sometimes playing on LAN, and the reality is that you just won't hear the flanks the way that you might hear them at home. So Belfegor capitalizing on that chaotic environment. It's the same environment everyone's playing in. So Sweden, now it's their turn to try and recontest the point, but looks like they're able to cross pretty successfully here, only taking minimal damage. But Belfegor's got his next barrage ready.
Another one. That's a great. Oh, what a great Maywall. Lulsish in trouble. The rest of the team following up. The barrage right in the middle, and Brocked not into the water quite yet, but he's got the assist of his Mercy. Valkyrie initiated. Erky destroying the resources and healers of Columbia. And as soon as they had it, they just give it right up to Sweden.
It's exactly what I do want to see out of Sweden against this Pharah Mercy comp. Use your Sigma just merely to distract the enemy Pharah. You don't need to take her out, but because they're committing a Pharah and a Mercy, if your Sigma just trades his life as essentially a distraction for the Pharah Mercy, the rest of your team has a 5v4 on point, and they have a major advantage in that 5v4 fighting alongside a Doomfist and a Reaper. So Columbia's going to switch over to a more similar comp, but again, they really are going to rely on Dromer. Without his Maywall cutting someone apart, they're going to have a real struggle dealing with the Doomfist.
Cersei has Shatter, but against 2 shields, it's tough. He's just going around the team and no one's doing anything. Oh, the fade out. Epps knew it was coming. Cersei charges in, no kill, and punish. Columbia missing 1, but not out of it yet. Coalescence, Rat with the Death Blossom 2. Sweden survive on the back of the amazing DPS plays from this team.
Cersei gets to Shatter, but it's just so telegraphed. I mean, that's the challenge of playing Rein in this meta. You're forced to flank around the shield. There's no way that you break it. When the enemy team is running Orisa Sigma, you need to flank around, get that flank Shatter, possibly combo with the grip, but with the fade, I mean, so many heroes on the side of Team Sweden can just dodge the Shatter on their own, and that's what they do here. Now attacking into White Room is Team Sweden.
Wow, they're playing so close, and a Blizzard from Dromer to see if he can catch Mew. It freezes almost every single one of Sweden. Columbia turning the fight around when they thought they were in trouble. GTA is like, see you later, going to the point, and this is critical, 99% for Sweden.
Dromer with the Blizzard. Now it's Columbia's turn to hold the point. No ults really for anybody, so now truly anybody's game, although I have to feel that the no ult scenario is going to favor Team Sweden. They have better poke in the neutral game running that Sigma. They've got the Doomfist to threaten those initiations. Columbia, essentially, until they commit, or until Sweden commits past the point that can be walled, yeah, they're just delaying. I mean, this wall delays a little, but they're going to break in and potentially have an opening to rush point before the Maywall's back off cooldown.
I think they already had to use the Wraith from Sweden, but it's okay. Now they're getting ready to go into the point. Erky leads the way. Columbia trying to pressure him back with the Coalescence and Bongo having some effect, but Sweden trying to stabilize with no front line. How can they? Erky has to get out. Let's deal with the Reaper, but Columbia are nice and healthy, and Sweden don't want to get staggered here. It's last fight territory coming up.
Erky just needs to survive, although the picks did come in a little bit later for Sweden, which means they will have a momentary player advantage as their players return back from spawn. Columbia relying on their tanks now to just hold position on point, but Erky already in the flank, and I expect the rest of Team Sweden to regroup here in White Room. But great hold here from Columbia, managing to wall off Elevo.
Oh, and a great wall, and oh, the Fortify Firefly right in his face, punished by Rat. Death Blossom, again cancelled. Supercharger on the field for Sweden, retaking this fight at 99-99. Colombia so close to forcing the round 3, but Sweden, patience, adaptation on the point. The flip, now it's just overtime.
Sweden definitely getting a little ahead of themselves in that one fight, rushing into White Room and dying to Dromer's Blizzard, but it ends up not being enough for Colombia. I mean, again, it has been Dromer on the Mei, completely lighting things up, making all the plays for his team, but it feels like he just can't do it alone. And to me, I mean, this feels like a strong team punishing a lack of Orisa Sigma. I mean, the Rein just feels impotent. Like, what is he doing? I mean, he's cleaving, but the shadows are just too easy for a team as good as Team Sweden to dodge. I mean, you know, half the heroes on Team Sweden can just use one ability, you know, like Fade or you know, Doomfist Uppercut, Reaper's Wraith. All these skills just completely negate the Shatter, and you know, you're just relying on huge plays from Shatter at that point, which is just too inconsistent against a highly skilled team.
And the whole point of Cersei, it feels like this self-destruct, it really promotes the disorganization of the other team. But when you have the synergy of Sweden, who have teamed with each other, they have high levels of experience, the most strong team in this bracket, the D.Va, I don't think is going to fool them. And this is punishing maybe a front line that, I mean, the Rein, then he swapped to the Rein, and the Shatters were easily predicted. Moiras were fading out, he was charging in and being the first to die often at the time. So maybe the Sigma is the play.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, a real challenge of the matchup of trying to break away from Orisa Sigma is that the moment you've committed to running a Lucio strategy, you know, if you don't have a Sigma and they do, your beat has to be permanently saved essentially for the Gravitic Flux. It's the only consistent counter to Gravitic Flux in the game that will really keep some of your weaker teammates alive, keep them fighting. But when you don't have your own Sigma, that means while your beat just counters the enemy Gravitic Flux, you know, the enemy team can just beat whenever they want. They can save it for the end of the fight, beat, and just run you over because, you know, you're Rein, unless he's got that 5-man Shatter up his sleeve, you just regret picking that hero, frankly.
And just a reminder, it is a first to 3. The maps are predetermined through the whole bracket, but the loser gets to pick the side, so it will be Colombia choosing if they want to defend or attack first, which I've already asked you this question, but you said it's a lot about team preference.
Yeah, it depends really mostly on the strategies you want to bring to bear. Whether you have something you want to hide until the end of the map, then you'd rather, of course, start on the other side. Or if you have a strategy that only comes out in certain scenarios, you might want to attack first to know how much progress you set, know what you have available to you on defense. You know, if you can't make it to third point, then a strat that only helps you on third point is useless. So question is for Colombia, what do they prefer? What's their comfort zone? At this point, honestly, losing map 1, I think you just pick the side that you feel stronger on. Just sort of flip the tone of the match. Don't think about strategy so much. It's not so important here. Just feel like, what's your more confident side? Do you feel like you're a better defensive team or a better attacking, rushing team? And for Colombia, I think that's really up in the air right now. The Mei would suggest to me that they like to play defense, and or at least with Dromer's success, that they're more comfortable on defense, holding points, using that Mei wall in the chokes. But Icon on this very strange map, first point, makes that a lot more difficult to execute, especially with the availability of Pharah on a high skybox map. So we'll have to see what Team Colombia choose to bring to bear on this next map.
And another strong aspect of Sweden's roster is the fact that they have their coach Swoosh, who former player, and now he's been coaching Eternal Academy. How important is it to you that a coach has playing experience?
Well, for me, in my experience, is that you know, there are some people who haven't played professionally who really just are suited to the coaching role really well. Like, they're just really natural, good at helping people, good at understanding them, and creating a dialogue, a healthy, respectful dialogue between, you know, a bilateral dialogue. I think in esports, the games are so new and so fast changing. There's no way for someone to sort of have some consistent ideology that you just force upon the team over and over again. You have to be flexible, you have to adapt, you have to learn. And the best environment to do that in is one with mutual respect, where the coach can offer ideas, but so can the players, and that they're discussed on equal footing. And I think ex-players are most aware of that reality, that you know, no one really knows what's the best strategy. The game is just too new, too fast changing to be quote-unquote certain about something like that. It's really just about testing what works, what has the highest success rate for you as a team, based on your comfort picks, and based on, you know, what's the strongest options in the current metagame.
And Sweden, on top of having an OWL experience, they have collegiate experience. Rat, DPS player on that team, comes from Maryville, which is a top collegiate school. And what do you think of how important the collegiate experience is? Is it close enough to contenders?
I think the collegiate experience is very interesting because it kind of straddles the gap in a way between casual and competitive. You've got a lot of players in these teams who don't truly compete, but they're playing in their college team more because they like Overwatch and it's something that their college does, which I think is really cool to draw more people into the competitive scene. But at the same time, the competition level is really not that high. Even contenders is, I would say, significantly above collegiate. So the question is, can he make that experience work? But Rad so far has been a bright spot. I mean, individual players can definitely reach that skill level despite their division.
So on the attack, Sweden, double sniper. What do you think of this?
Really trying to put the pressure on Belfagor here. It's pretty much up to Erky and Rat to pick off the Pharah. Okay, no, they're going to switch back to the Doom Reaper. Now they're going for more of a classic rushing strategy. They want to assault this backline, essentially ignore the Pharah Mercy, let Elevote slow them down, eat their damage, and delay them. You need to hunt down these low ground players who your Reaper can catch.
Sweden just barely dodging that Maywall from Dromer. You don't want to get isolated. They safely make their way towards the left side, putting pressure onto Cersei. This is going to be a vulnerable hero on the side of Columbia. He can only defend or attack. He can't do both at the same time like an Orisa can. And getting that rock onto Belfagor, that called rock setup, so key to taking down a Pharah when you don't have hits.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about wasting a Pharah's time, but certainly if you can just kill her instantly at the start of the fight, that works too. Great movement out of Buck6 on the Mercy, somehow staying alive for way longer than I would have expected, but it ultimately comes to nothing there. Sweden with the decisive aggression. You can see how clean this team is from the way they cross chokes. Something as simple as that, you know, something a lot of teams forget about. They don't think it's super important, but when Sweden crosses that choke, they speed boost instantly all together to get past the Maywall. No one's separated, and then they restore their cooldowns in a location that's safe from most spam. That's just textbook gameplay.
Belfagor got rocked again. He's got to be careful. Thankfully, he's on the high ground, so he can't get punished. One more direct onto Erky. This could be scary for Sweden. He's able to rejoin the fight. Coalescence, Barrage, Lulstich with a return. So it's a 1-for-1. Both teams suffering in damage. Sweden just getting their health pools up. They've shredded the shield of GTA. Now they can go forward. A little bit of time bought from the Maywall. Supercharger. How did Belfagor just get rezzed in front of Sweden? Doesn't matter. Supercharger gives them a big advantage right now.
Sneaky res there from Bach, getting his Pharah Mercy back alive. But now the Gravitic Flux comes out from Elevote, and he's getting two immediately. Erky for the final cleanup.
Oh, Elevote's popping off. All of Sweden breezing through this part of point B. Even staggering the Mercy potentially. That's big.
Yeah, now Erky, free reign to set up wherever he wants. Now Belfagor, the challenge really begins. How does he even get out of the spawn? Yeah, he's going to switch off the Pharah. I don't blame him here. In this situation, there's really no way to get into the fight properly. You just need to deal with this Doomfist on the high ground. But Erky, he's going to have free reign to initiate however he wants. Bach trying to put some sort of distraction to come out, but he pays with his life.
Rat dropping down like a helicopter onto Columbia. And it's Sweden initiating first. Them using their ultimates first, and it pays off. They breeze through to point B.
Just a dominant chokehold there from Sweden, understanding how advanced they are in that situation. Columbia has to recontest into a totally desperate scenario. Nice move from Box 6 to keep himself alive, but Erky wants more hunting aggression here. Cersei back to the Diva. They want to punish this instant assault coming out from Columbia, but they're managing to take down Erky.
Yeah, the halt was a little quick, but Sweden just down Erky. But they traded with the Dromer. Columbia have the better spawns. Sweden committing to this, using the barrier. Cersei goes back to the cart to just stall, get time for respawns. Sweden turning around to address the problem. But important ultimates are coming down for Sweden to finish off this map.
Sweden, they do have dominant position here, but a few more ults available for the side of Columbia. So if Dromer can get that big blizzard as he had all series long, then maybe he can make it work here. Lulch just has to get a huge bog here, but it is huge. Oh no, the Moira could be in trouble.
Self-destruct too from Cersei. Back, Sweden finds shelter. Supercharger on the high ground. Gonna be inaccessible to Columbia. Desperate seconds for Sweden. Extra damage. Now GTA drops his own supercharger, but not as many to benefit. Belfagor could pop off. He needs more healing. He needs sub-supports alive. Even a Death Blossom on the cart. This should repel Sweden away just in time.
Erky picks up 3, but it's just not enough. The staggers come back in from Columbia, and the trade frags favor that defensive team. But 4 minutes on the clock. That only speaks to how insane Sweden's offense has been up to this point. This is the first time Columbia has had any sort of stability, and what did it cost them? Every single ult. Now Sweden has, again, another position. Easy fight to win here. There's no answers to the Gravitic Flux. If Elevote catches anyone of importance, this could be just game over here on Eichenwald.
Elevote initiating, gets so many. Death Blossom from Rad with the 3K, Elevote with the rest! Sweden, clean team fight. Columbia respawns quick, but not fast enough. Sweden finished with 3 minutes and 25.
A 3:30 time bank on Eichenwald. Erky going off on this Doomfist, and this is what I was talking about with Columbia, not running the Sigma. Without the Sigma, what answer do you have to the Doomfist? You don't have that accretion rock to actually punish him, kill him. You know, with D.Va, maybe you keep people alive, you block a couple shots, but Doomfist, he's still got the punch, he's still got the meteor strike, he's just gonna escape time and time again. He's gonna farm that ult and come back for you again. So Cersei playing the D.Va, I mean, it started to look good against a team like the Philippines, but a team with more organization and strategic understanding, looks like they're really punishing that decision.
And do you think this is up to maybe him not being comfortable in the Sigma, so he's going to play heroes he's comfortable with and make it work? I feel like this only really worked against teams on their level.
Yeah, I mean, so far, you know, against the Philippines, it did work, right? And especially with how much Billy had favored that Pharah in the series, it kind of made a little more sense. But Sweden has been locking it in with the Reaper Doom, essentially permanently. So Cersei really is going to feel the pain. I think he's playing this D.Va into that matchup. Now Sweden going to bring out the Bastion Pharah, something that Shock brought out in the Grand Finals. We've seen tons of success from this comp. It's so hard to answer the Pharah Mercy and the Bastion comp simultaneously, but at least last time Columbia approached this offense, they knew what to do. They knew how to get around behind the defenders, make that Bastion think twice, you know, make him turn around. They showed proficiency in dealing with the strategy conceptually, so hopefully they have the same understanding and able to execute it. But Eichenwald is one of the best maps to defend with this comp, and really with how good Erky's been on the Doomfist, I'm excited to see his Pharah.
This is going to be such a tough rotation for Columbia to stay out of the line of sight from Rat. I mean, hopefully Erky doesn't get barraged so they don't get killed from that. Then you have to make your way up to the Bastion, deal with Immortality, deny the Resurrect. There's so many steps that Columbia have to take before they can take the point, unless they focus on objective and Sweden have to make a decision of dropping or contesting. But in the neutral fight, not a good start. GTA getting too far up. So much poke and direct damage from Erky.
Rat watching the corner and wins on a Reza kill for his trouble. Now Erky, it's time to just free farm Barrage. I'd love to see him get even more aggressive than this and attack spawners. There's really no threats. There's nothing that can actually really put any significant kill threat on him besides a lucky Mei headshot into D.Va charge. But with the Mercy by his side, he's so strong. Columbia, though, getting a little bit of a better rotation this time. Going to manage to slip all the way around behind the Bastion, climb up in this flank behind him, and hopefully disrupt this position. But Sweden, they look to hold strong.
Sweden know it's coming. They have their Bastion, even their shields reoriented. Columbia looks like they're still sticking to the high ground. Some have dropped to the low. Alibod is isolated. Immortality just in time to save him. And that those few extra seconds that Sweden had, were able to get those picks, clean Columbia up, and Columbia have to go again.
It's great movement from Erky there at the end, just staying evasive, moving around constantly, and Columbia, they're just not well suited to answer this Pharah Mercy. And, you know, they're essentially free unless Columbia can get early pickoffs, you know, take out EPZZ, you know, force Gustav on that Mercy to do something else and just pocket the Pharah all day long. But so long as that Mercy pocket is engaged, it's going to be tough for Columbia. Columbia bringing out a Pharah Mercy of their own, lacking the confidence to challenge this Bastion on the Mei Reaper setup. Now they're going to go for the Pharah duel, but it didn't go so well for Belfegor last time, and Erky has been looking good. So that's really what the players to watch right now is Erky. Can he challenge in the Bastion sideline? Oh, and there's a Pharah.
And there's a Pharah. Seems to be the common theme. Window of Death, Amplification, Matrix. That's the fight that you just walk away from. Columbia don't have too many walkaways left, 2 minutes. So hopefully they can get something done.
I mean, this is a hard duel to be in the first place because you don't truly get to duel Erky. You're forced to fight him in front of his Bastion and in front of his Baptiste if he's playing well. And on top of that, with no Sigma, you really only have that few seconds of delay that the D.Va Matrix buys you. That's your only survivability, really, for Columbia when the fight breaks down. So it's so important to win that duel, but an instant supercharger, jump around the corner. Great initiation from Sweden.
Just sneaking up on them. Columbia just thought they were so far back into the building, just ran right in and then disengaged as soon as they saw that supercharger. And Sweden, so economical. Supercharger one fight, Amplification the other. They have set their winning conditions back to back that Columbia, it's their last minute 30 left.
I mean, it feels like they just haven't not taken a proper fight since they switched to this composition. And, you know, it's really, I don't even blame them. I think it's really on Sweden playing so well. I mean, most teams just drop the supercharger when the fight breaks down, you know, exactly as you'd expect. But Sweden, that's so tactical. They hide around the corner and jump around the corner with a supercharger, making the most of that burst of damage. And it really pays off, winning the fight with just one ult. And now they have everything else left to make this hold.
And I mean, the Dromer's been on this Hanzo for a while, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to get Dragon in time. It's going to be a big winning condition for them. Going to start with the Coalescence, though. Belfegor is supported, looking for Barrage. He gets behind, a little high up, but it's not the quick finish. Even Gustav gets part of that. Sweden defending for now. Columbia down by a lot. Not a lot of time left.
challenge using that barrage is immense. When you just can't take down the other Pharah combo, using that barrage is essentially going to guarantee your own death in 1 or 2 seconds as long as the enemy Pharah can just get off 2 rockets. Now Elebow chasing more frags, wants to finish off this Orisa. Ooh, and delayed are the late spawns of Columbia. Are they even going to have 6 for this final fight? And who is there really to touch? Belphegor dies. Oh, that's even later. This is brutal. I mean, Box 6 going to switch to the Lucio. He basically sees the wall ride, full desperation mode. Oh no.
And Rat, oh, it still finds one. Immortality field just in case. And this was a story of being countered by the Immortality and Sweden outthinking this D.Va. Rat on the Bastion.
Rat, though, it may be too much. I mean, the Moira still alive, one of the best heroes in this sort of scrappy scenario. The Coalescence trying to take off Elemode. He's so low. They're trying to get him. He's 1 HP, but he's managing to stay alive, although that may actually just cost him. There's no way to escape from that flank.
How did Columbia just turn that around? Everyone's on their desperate picks of Tracer, Sombra. They might just stick through it, but now a few more changes coming in.
A huge D.Va bomb from Cersei there, shut down the healer, so they were able to actually clean up those frags over the long fight, you know, using that Moira, keeping her alive long term. But now Sweden straight back into their comfort zone on the Doom Reaper. They may have lost first point, but they've completely destroyed the time bank from Columbia. All but impossible for Columbia to repeat what Sweden did. At this point, they're just hoping to cap this map at all.
Oh, the Hulk forces Sweden down. Maybe they weren't ready. Supercharger used, but Columbia had completely surrounded them. Sweden still alive, trading back and forth actually as Sweden try and stabilize behind the shield of their Sigma. Columbia protecting themselves with their own Mei wall, trying to catch anyone who goes past it. Then you have Erky on the field who's dangerous. Columbia have to play carefully here.
Cersei soaking the punch. Erky, though, he's able to just dive in time and time again. There's no way to punish him. Although Belphegor charges in and does exactly that. That's just what Columbia needed to start this fight off. Now it's going to signal a full retreat from Team Sweden. But they do have the double shield. It should be possible to get a retweet. Belphegor does not want to allow it. Spinning in.
Belphegor just speeding right on into Cersei. Double self-destruct. Clearly found his way back on the D.Va. And we thought Sweden was finding a counter to it, but he's finding these perfect opportunities somehow.
It's Columbia making this snowball work. With a comp like this, you need to keep winning fight after fight. Right now, they do have a chance. I mean, the Mei wall and these chokes can be more than deadly, can be just completely destroy your entire team if you get separated at the choke. So Sweden, they need to make a good move to get out and just even take this fight properly. But it looks like they've succeeded in doing that at least.
Belphegor a few more shots away. Death Blossom. Sweden pushed against a wall. Belphegor up into the air, close to the Death Blossom. Meteor Strike. Erky trying to defend his team. But one last Death Blossom from Belphegor. It should be the end. Columbia should be able to go through. Sweden not giving up. They have their support still alive. And a Graphitic Flux from Elebow is severely wounding Columbia. And now you thought it was winnable for them, but Sweden are turning it around.
The Coalescence from Sweden is just going to be way too much, too many frags, traded both ways, and with the defender spawns being right there, you just can't allow that if you're Columbia. It had to be more decisive than that. Now, once again, they find themselves in a desperate last-second contest scenario. We'll see if they can make it work. They made it work time and time again in these sort of super desperate scenarios. It's Stromer to touch the card, though.
GTA is so low. Sweden using a barrier, trying to get an advantage for his fight. Rat with the Death Blossom just to catch anyone from Columbia trying to go through Castle. Now you don't have your full 6 here if you're the attacking team. They get halted almost off the map. Belphegor can't hang on. Sweden, dominant defense, and will hold.
Little stumbles there from Sweden, but ultimately it comes to nothing, and you can hardly call this a close game with the time bank Sweden was able to achieve on their own offense. Stomping through to a solid 2-0 is Team Sweden. Columbia definitely signs of life in this series. It's not over yet, though.
Not over till it's over, but it has been quick so far. But Sweden, I mean, we kind of predicted this was going to be the toughest team, and we talked about for Columbia, they came in with a lot of momentum coming off a win. You come off with confidence, but how is your confidence feeling when you have OWL players, top contenders players, top collegiate players on the other side?
Well, Sweden just looks well practiced with what they're doing. I mean, they're playing the classic meta, exactly what we'd expect them to play, the double shield Reaper Doom, and they're showing why that meta has been so dominant this patch. It's just so difficult to deal with the halts with the Doomfist combo. I mean, you're stacking people up in an AoE for a hero that has a one-shot and 2 AoE damage skills. I mean, he just basically runs away from the game if you can't shut him down. And given that Columbia, they're not running the Sigma, they're not even running a Roadhog or a stun of any kind, really. It's all on essentially what, the Mei, the Reaper. I mean, they don't have a real answer to the Doomfist. They can delay him, they can slow him down maybe, but he is coming for that back line, and unless they can actually kill him, they won't be able to win these fights. I mean, we could see even in the losing fights for Sweden, Erky is getting 2, 3 frags. You need an answer to the Doomfist. Most other teams have chosen the Sigma, but Colombia, they're going to need to do something different to answer the Doomfist if they won't run that hero.
I felt that Sweden had such a good response to the Pharah too. The Halt, Rock setups
Oh my
were
god,
hitting
Eleva
almost
was
every time.
so consistent, and that's not an easy setup. I mean, the Rock is a very slow-moving projectile. It's got a long charge time on accretion. It's far from easy. I mean, compared to something like Halt Hook, is a much more straightforward combination. You have to think about the distance, the distance from you to the Halt, and the distance, the time of the Rock setup. It's a lot of stuff to calculate there for Elevo, but he's been perfect so far. I mean, that allowed them to stomp through the first point and allowed them to just constantly suppress Belphegor and the Pharah. Really feel like he hasn't done much on that hero, frankly, in this series. I mean, a couple big flank barrages, as expected, getting huge value. But it really, that's more of like the cheese play. That's more of, well, the enemy team didn't realize I was there, so it all worked out. But you're not winning that sort of default scrappy fight, fair ults, fair everything. That's the fight you need to win in Overwatch. At the end of the day, there will be those fair fights, and it's going to be the better team that comes out on top.
And historically, I think this BlizzCon means a lot for a lot of teams because there's no more group stages, so everyone is here and a prelim bracket, single limb. But Sweden especially, last year, missing out on BlizzCon, getting 4th at the Bangkok qualifier, so not making it. But Sweden had such better showings in 2017, 2016, getting far enough in BlizzCon. So I think this is the year for Sweden to make a huge comeback, to make a stand. And by restructuring most of their roster, we'll have to see maybe teams on more their level, how they really look. But farther in the bracket, I think Sweden look really solid.
There's certainly more to prove. I feel like Lolshus and Elivote have really been bright spots for me on the tank line of Team Sweden. The combination, the Orisa Halt and Rock combo, it's not just either one's prerogative. Really, both players have to work together. They have to communicate. They have to understand when it makes sense to combo those abilities, when they should be separated, when they just need to use them for their own survivability. And so far, I feel like they've had that healthy balance that you're looking for. And on top of that, I want to say Erky, especially on the Doomfist, he's been having success, but also in the Pharah, looking clean, having those quick movements that I really have not seen from too many other Pharahs in the World Cup. Sliding through those tight corridors. It's so important to be playing in the geometry you want to play and have the movement to get yourself there. So Erky has been displaying that for sure.
And Junkertown, our escort map, deja vu, but this could be the final map and possibly the end of the journey for Colombia, unless they're able to turn things around. But what's kind of funny about Sweden, too, is, if my memory serves right, Snillo, one of the, well, I guess now that Lolshus and Elivote technically now, but before that, Snillo is not playing, and they're starting with Rat and Erky.
Well, Snillo I think of as being sort of a flanker specialist. You know him for his performance on that Tracer, on that Sombra. Also heroes like Widowmaker. He's a very, very high skill, precise DPS player. But it could just be that a player like Rat, I mean, maybe he's got the communication or something. Reaper is just less about those precise, perfect DPS gameplay moments, and more about being at the right place at the right time, comboing your team's abilities, syncing up in your moments of power.
On the defense, Colombia, I mean, they're also choosing to defend first against Sweden, and nothing too crazy. What's kind of crazy, though, is the double sniper on the defense. That's a big risk.
This is pretty crazy. Running the Zenyatta, I mean, the double sniper is definitely weird, but Junkertown's one of the best maps for this comp. The Zenyatta and the Mercy, though, I am very worried about. I mean, Erky may need to switch off this Pharah. Instant pick onto Lolshus, though.
Yikes, but
they were not ready for the snipers, to be sure, but I'd expect Sweden to go instantly back to Swan and make some composition swaps here. They weren't ready for the double sniper, a very unorthodox comp from Colombia. It's really good that they got that first pick, melting the timing down a little bit, but now Sweden looking more confident as they move out of Spawn as a unit.
Now it's how Sweden are going to set up their shields around Rat. They know they have to be more conservative. You can't have your Sigma go on crazy flanks or at different angles. To deny these angles from the snipers of Colombia is the trick for Sweden.
Oh. Huge Mei wall to separate out the tanks here. That's going to cost both tanks of Colombia their life. Nobody to contest cart except for Bach having to go in and do the job himself. Someone's got to do it, I guess, but Colombia, I mean, yeah, sure, you're building up the Infrasight. Yeah, sure, you're building up the Dragon. But what does Gustav have? He's got the amplification matrix in store, and these abilities, the ults from the snipers, they just can't compete with that much damage. Doubling the Bastion's damage, that's way too much. And and Erky just adds insult to injury with the extra headshot, taking down Hellful. He'll have to be res, but is Boxix even in position?
And Dromer's off to the left, maybe trying to spot a GC support, but Colombia dropping just in time. Oh, nope, not for long. And now they have to run.
I really feel for the tanks of Columbia. I mean, finally they're switching over to the Sigma, running that Devil Shield comp, but they're running what I would call an outdated support duo. This is Zen Mercy. It's just too hard to stay alive. There's too much pressure on you, and Helpful, only at 71% of his trance, just has been shooting shields all game long. That's not what you want to do on Zenyatta. You need to be dropping your Discord and actually getting picks. He's not the best shield shooter around.
And even adding to the Mei denying this line of sight. Speaking of sight, we have Infrasight, Columbia getting that information, but they're behind them. They're just letting Sweden sail by them. Columbia now stuck with a very hard rotation. Half their team is respawning, half the team is behind them. Sweden also have tank configuration. This is scary.
I mean, this is how you used to deal with the Bastion comp, you know, spread out, get on both sides of him, but with the Sigma, they can create a perfect shield around the Bastion. That's what they're doing, even walling off the tanks so they can't even touch. Oh, this is so sad to watch. GTA desperately running to the cart, but Rat just stifling them and even getting the door open before they can test. Eats an entire right click to the face from Zen and just does not care. The Immortality Field protecting him completely through everything. The snowball continues, 5:40 on the clock for Team Sweden. You almost can't do better than this on the offense. Now they're going to move up their Bastion to a very forward position, guarantee themselves a lot more card time. Columbia, something has to change here. They have the Dragon, that might work, but with the Immortality Field, I mean, how much can you really expect a Hanzo Dragon to get done?
Well, tank configuration, you have Amplification Matrix. Sweden have everything. Starting off on the high ground. Columbia already don't want to mess with that. I like this. This is smart. You don't play a fight that you can't win. Columbia will have ults, especially this Transcendence will be critical against this Bastion.
Oh, a totally missed Dragon from Belphegor. Not going to get anything. Rat's already moved into the flank. Every ult has to come out from a Columbia just to keep the fight going, but Sweden, they still have so much in the tank, and now it's a Rat in the tank. Oh, it does get traded down.
The trade is big. Sweden, without their Bastion, still going to progress the cart, at least allowing this lane to go through, but this next fight, they might want to wait for Rat to get back.
I just so much respect here for Lolcius. He knew how dominant that fight was for them, and he held the Supercharger. This is the most difficult ult in the game to recontest into. He can just build it now. Look, how do they have to get on top of the Supercharger. It's dealing so much effective damage here. Everyone from Sweden doubling their, 50% bonus on their damage. Even Rat on the Tracer getting insane value on a hero we rarely ever see.
Oh, Columbia just don't even have any time to set up. Tracer, Supercharger, everything, pushing them back in their spawn doors. 4 minutes and 13 is just,
I mean, is that a world record? I don't know what the world record is on this map, but that's got to be within a minute of the world record for sure. The competitive world record on Junkertown. I mean, that's a disgusting time. Columbia, they need to just muster all of their resolve right now, not to give up. I mean, gosh, at this point, you aren't hoping to repeat that sort of performance. Sweden can go Mei and sack on the cart 20 times before last, and you are not going to repeat their performance. You know, they don't even have to attempt to win a fight, and you won't be able to get that same time bank just from sacking on the cart 24/7. So Columbia, they'll have to win some very decisive fights, especially early on, build up some ultimate snowballs, just the way Sweden did. I'd really like to see Columbia come out with the Bastion. I think there really isn't a hero that can snowball the way Bastion can, and with what Sweden just did to you, you maybe need to pull a page out of their book.
And I felt that that last fight was really all about snowball, and also that rotation on point B from Columbia not only costed them that point B hold, but also the start of point C, where that's even a stronger place to defend from. So mistakes in the rotation, and then gave more ults to Sweden, where in that fight, the Bastion ults, like you said at the beginning, we're gonna outwin all the ults that Columbia had.
I mean, when you're running a Zen and a Mercy, and you're running a Hanzo and a Widow against two shields, like, you need to break the shield. If you don't break the shield, you just can't win, but you're playing against a Bastion. How will you ever win the shield trade? I think Columbia just out-strategize here. I really don't see any road to victory for them playing that composition. Now they're going to bring out a Bastion strat of their own, and this is what I like. You got Dromer on the Mei, something he's had a ton of success with, and a Bastion comp that has the potential to snowball. The question is, can Sweden catch them off guard at the moment that they try to get to the cart?
Cersei's still on the Diva, which is fine. You can send that self-destruct into the back. It's been a good zoning tool, and he's had success, but with the shield, extra shield pressure on the GTA, he's going to have to really protect Belphegor. That's the whole winning condition. Their whole composition is surrounded around Belphegor. Speaking of which, surrounding Sweden, keeping Columbia at bay.
Columbia needs to establish some sort of beachhead here for the Bastion to start dealing the damage, but it's Cersei already demeched. Oh no, having to switch, coming out on the Roadhog here as Sweden attacks the Bastion.
It's so tough to isolate Sweden when they just move as a single unit. Columbia back into spawn, but that neutral fight means Sweden, they're going to get closer and closer to ults. Then again, this is going to get scary.
And I think Cersei's decision, I mean, once you're on the Bastion comp, that's where you really need that Sigma. I mean, it's so important. The Kinetic Grasp can be a great ability to keep Bastion alive in emergency scenarios, and the shield is just an obvious combo with a hero like Bastion. I mean, it's really straightforward. Put a shield in front of his face and let him pump that damage out. Belphegor, though, starting to deal some damage, but Sweden just gets right under him and he has no more line of sight.
Oh,
but
they halted
leave.
Epps. Yeah, that was so good. Columbia still trying to play it safe, knowing they have respawns. They just have to wait, but this is
Gustav,
Sweden.
huge boop.
Sweden taking time off the clock.
It's a huge boop from Gustav, separates Belphegor. He's got no shield left. They're going to take him down too. Things may be falling apart here for Team Sweden, but you know, it's still desperation scenario. Remember, we are fighting in front of the Colombian spawn, and we've got a minute 30 off the clock already. It's time to stall point, and who better for the job than Mei? Oh, this is so painful. An extra 5 seconds.
Everyone just wants to give her a high five, and there it is, right back into the spawn room. Columbia, I mean, a lot of time off the clock, but now that their Bastion is set up, this could be clean from here on out.
From here on out, though, it needs to be clean. I mean, that's what Columbia needs. You know, if they can't win every fight from here on out, they stand little chance of taking this map and starting to swing the series back. They do have the nano boost. They do have the Baptiste wall. So if they can get that amplification matrix down in time to get high value, this could be enough to win the fight. But Cersei dropping low, almost dying, but manages to survive.
And there was a sleep on the low stitch that just slowed everything down for Sweden, so they're not able to hold that choke. Columbia going through whole hog, or Cersei tried to go for it, got frozen. A bit of an awkward push for Columbia, and an equal response and ult from Sweden, mainly that supercharger that just gave them that extra oomph to just take out the setup from Columbia. And now that this Bastion can't get on cart, is Belphegor gonna stick with it?
Very weird discoordination there out of Columbia. They give the nano to the Roadhog, who just ends up dying anyway, and the Bastion isn't even in position to make use of the amplification matrix. So something going wrong on one side of both of those combinations, and you can't really accept that against a Mei Reaper. They will punish mistakes like that, especially a team as polished as Sweden. Look at them hiding in the corner, not taking unnecessary damage. The moment Columbia oversteps their bounds, I'll see Sweden charging down the mid with the beat.
1 minute, or this could be the end of the journey for Columbia. Sweden, look at this flank. Rat ready with the Death Blossom, doesn't even need it. Oh, Farstupari up. Nope, he can get the job done, cleaning up the rest of Columbia. Down to their last minute. Sweden will hold.
It cost him a sound barrier, but Cersei, he's a fresh swap onto the Sigma. If he had been playing it all round, he might have had a Gravitic Flux to potentially turn things around here, but no such luck. He's got nothing to punish. In fact, it's Elevo with the first Gravitic Flux. That's going to be very, very dangerous as well. EPZZ with his own Coalescence. I mean, how can Columbia even survive the onslaught here? They've got a supercharger, but oh, the combo is perfect.
What? They just melted the Farmercy. Columbia, this was their fight to win. They had supercharger. They had so many options. And just instantly deleted before we can even finish thinking. 17 seconds
Oh, the
before
delay.
Sweden take
Thank
3-0.
finally, we get a great team doing the delay here. It's so important in the last fight. Now Columbia, not only are they gonna have to switch to fast heroes just to touch the card, but they'll be doing so 5 versus 6 into a Death Blossom, into a Gravitic Flux. I mean, this just looks over for Columbia. Sweden trying to punch their ticket onto the bracket. Rat with the Death Blossom.
Death Blossom in the back, and 2 down for Columbia. Sweden throwing their last minute ults. Blizzard, it's feeling cold, and so are the hopes for Columbia. It was a tough series, but Sweden will advance.
My word, if there was a moment to define Sweden's tank line in this series, it's that Halt combo into the Rock, into the Coalescence, taking down somehow both the Pharah and the Mercy with the Halt combo. You just don't see that every day. So great team play from Sweden, shutting down some of the strategies from Columbia. I mean, it's good for Columbia. They bring out their comfort picks. They play what they're strongest at, but there's a reason the meta is the meta. It's pretty good at winning. So Sweden, they know how to play the best strategies in the game, and that turns out to be the best formula for winning, and so it gets them the win here.
Well, congratulations to Sweden. They'll be moving on to the finals of this bracket to face the winner of a whole bunch of teams who are waiting on the other side of the bracket, essentially. But I think Columbia, I think they had a better series against the Philippines. They just looked like they played more confident. They played more aggressive. Belphegor, Dromer working together as the Mei Reaper. And it just felt like they played differently against Sweden.
Well, I mean, if anything, I feel like it's really the opponent that's different. I mean, Sweden just weren't giving the same opportunities for mistakes that the Philippines were. I mean, discipline speed boost, you can be sure that they're counting that down and they're going together using communication to mitigate the effectiveness of that Mei. So it just shows that for a top tier team, there's a reason why the best heroes are picked so often. It's because without them, you're really going to struggle against a team that understands how to execute that double shield to maximum efficacy.
Well, unfortunately, that will be the end of Colombia's journey, but the continuation of Sweden's as they advance in the finals. We will throw it to a quick intermission, and when we get back, we'll see where Sweden ends up.